It feels like it's been for ages that I was able to sit down and talk about a new Dr. Stone episode, and not just a normal Dr. Stone episode, a 55-minute episode of Dr. Stone. The new rendition of the previous opening, just seeing them progress from starting to build their ship, building a hot air balloon, a loom so they can make the material for the hot air balloon, and getting, I feel like I already want to say new best boy, but I don't want to disregard everything Senku's done for the story, so I'm going to say a new guy who might be tied for best boy next to Senku, that being our Captain Ryuusui. And this man I've heard nothing but good things about, but it was one of those, like, I guess hype characters that, source readers say, oh, when you meet the captain, you're gonna immediately love him. It's hard to imagine exactly what that means because there is so many varieties of personalities, extreme, just very knowledgeable, very cool, calm, and collected, and instead we got a man who within, it felt like a matter of hours of being reborn into this new world, was able to introduce currency and become the richest bastard on the face of this earth. There was so much that this episode did that just immediately reminded me why I love the show so much, but also made me understand why they did this special episode. Because even without knowing exactly what chapters they adapted from the manga, because this isn't like an original episode where, it's completely anime original. As far as I know, they did adapt real manga chapters. And I feel like the reason they did this special episode prior to Season 3 airing next year is because what they were able to do is a lot of setup, a lot of preparation, a lot of introductions that if you kicked off Season 3 and had 3 or 3.5 episodes, while it would be good content, you can see why it fits better in this almost miniature movie-like format, so that when Season 3 kicks in, we're already halfway there to potentially building that boat and setting off for the new world. So it makes a lot of sense to have this special episode tie us Dr. Stone fans over till we get to Season 3, but when Season 3's there, kick into the new arc without having to have too much downtime or setup. That might feel a little more slow paced if it was broken up by the weeks. Where here, it just constantly felt like new inventions, new things, new goofy moments, and the slower stuff just felt like it was very natural for the format that we were watching. I mean, just the whole idea that currency, a department store, just all the different things they do in this episode, hell, oil refinery, right? The idea of, the richest guy, seemingly that we've met up until this point, probably one of the richest guys in the world. I mean, who gets millions of dollars in allowance as a child? This man clearly does. But I love the fact that immediately he recognizes that this is a great opportunity. He was rich before, he could be even richer now. He has the great opportunity to control the monopoly of things that people need, and the idea that he wants in payment oil. Because then, in order to essentially get what you need, because if you're building these vehicles, like a great boat, maybe a car, maybe a plane, you're gonna need his oil, so then ultimately you'll have to buy it off him. And the fact that he introduces a currency and just seeing the way characters respond, and I love seeing characters like someone like Senku, who completely loves cunning characters, who loves characters who can sometimes pull the rug under those around him, but the fact that he'll pull the rug right back, and the fact that they, throughout this episode, build up a war chest, even though, essentially as it stands, money has no value, but the fact that they're giving money value in such an interesting way, like the idea of starting to offer services and goods, but you need to have these new bucks that were introduced, and then the fact that you kind of steal the money away from people and make people believe it has no value. It's just such an interesting bait and switch and kind of commentary on how the world actually operates, but it was done in such a great way that I never thought in a matter of 10 minutes these characters could understand currency like that and then just immediately flip it on its head. But you can understand the fear of why some characters are like, please do not revive this man. He is completely in his own little world. But I'm so glad they brought him out because he's one of those guys who is insanely talented. You can tell he is a captain unlike any other. But he's also someone who is greedy. But I love the fact that he's not perfect. He's not the greedy type of he always gets his way. That because he knows money makes the world go round and now he's introducing it to their people, he's going to get everything he wants. There's a moment in the episode where they're pulling cards, they're pulling jokers. Whoever gets a joker gets to go up with Senku in the hot air balloon as they're scouting the lands and trying to find a place that they could dig for oil. The whole idea that he very much was, controlling the cards but giving the illusion that it was at random. The fact that he ultimately had to pay to get onto that ship after kind of being like super smug, being like, yeah, I see what you're doing. You want to make it look like it, but of course you're going to pick me, which in return would then mean they would probably have to pay him for his services. But instead, he has to pay them to get his spot on the ship. And then, of course, we have with Chrome the idea that he makes it look like he naturally picked it with sheer will. But of course, we know that was also because we knew who deserved to be on that ship. It was just really cool to see the escalation because there's so many things that, even if you know how to build it, there's a lot difference in terms of where the world is versus where it was. The idea of perfectly crafting and sculpting wood that it could be on the sea for years on end without having any damage. The current wood they have to build a ship wouldn't last probably more than a couple of days, especially given the storms. The whole idea that where they used to know an oil refinery would be, given a simple volcanic eruption could change the landscape, imagine being gone for thousands of years, things just aren't there anymore, and now they have things that basically look like Niagara Falls. There's a lot of uncertainty even being as smart as someone like Senkyu is. It was really cool to see how they naturally were navigating what started out as a simple, I thought the whole episode would be, building a boat and getting the captain. I thought we were going to set sea this episode, given how fast everything was happening. But then it turned into, okay, well, we can't do that, so let's build a hot air balloon, which made a lot of sense. It's not the most complex thing they were building. It seems like the most insane thing. They were expecting the most ridiculous blueprint they've had to date, but it's pretty simple, all things considered, because it's just a giant balloon with some hot air, right? But I love the fact that it never felt like things were happening too fast, but naturally just things would pop up that were an obstacle, and instead of just, saying, okay, well, now we're screwed, instead they would then build something, as they typically do, to aid with that, which then in return would make other characters' lives easier. Instead of having to sew up all the fabric by hand, which would take 1,000,000 years, they end up building the girl loom so she can do so much more, something that, based on her reaction, she's been asking for so long, but nothing has come up in the natural process that has warranted the time to build it, but now she finally got what she wants. I just loved watching everything happen and introducing someone in a cast of characters that have really cemented themselves as just so many best boys and best girls alike. And just to see this man feel like he's the perfect blend of rich asshole without being insufferable. Like, I love listening to him. I love seeing how he naturally fits in. And how, like, his first line in the episode after being saved is he's snapping his fingers asking for his butler. And I think he says something like, you can write whatever amount of money you want on a check and you can have it. 10 billion, 100 billion, I don't care, I got money. Oh, no one's here? Okay, well, this actually works out. I'll become even richer now. It's just insane to watch a personality like that, and just the voice actor they casted for him is absolutely perfect. He's the most confident, but also arrogant personality all wrapped up into one. And I even like when Senkyu maybe raises an eyebrow or two at what he's doing, you can just tell they're naturally going to be BFFs because they both want to out-manipulate the other, but they both can recognize the other's talents. This man's bringing science into the world. This man can navigate sea or the air. He's just a master at what he does. And he has just the charisma and chat energy of like every best boy combined into one. I had a blast watching this episode, and I'm really glad that it wasn't just a simple 30-minute episode. I'm glad that it really felt like we made a lot of progress, so then when season 3 kicks in, it feels like we already have a good establishing moment with him. We saw all the progression they made towards the bow. And yeah, there's still obviously setup left to go, but it feels like the stuff that could have been a little more boring in an episodic format feels like we got into the spicy and the exciting and even the slower moments as seen by the propaganda play, which did a great job at kind of mobilizing the troops. They just did a hell of a good job, and that's why I love Dr. Stone. But what did you think of this special episode? Whether if you're a fan of that manga or if you're anime original, let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. Until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.